All right, well, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin.
I'm Tarsha.
And this is, of course, Conversations with the Crawleys, where we have conversations about faith, family relationships, and recaps, reviews, commentary on some of our favorite TV shows. This one is dedicated to the latest episode of Married at First Sight, Boston Edition, season 14.
Yeah, I think it's season 14.
So because this is content that you enjoy, you know what you need to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like, request notifications, and we will see you in the comments.
I didn't get to say share.
And share, yeah. My bad. All right. I'm not going to go ahead right now. All right. As you can see, we are joined by a very special guest, our firstborn. Y'all have asked for her to come back. You enjoyed when she was on having commentary before on Married at First Sight. And so she's back.
She's back.
Flipping my hair.
You need to talk up a little bit. Can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I was flipping my hair.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. So, we'll just kind of jump into it. We are, 2.5 weeks away from decision day?
Right. So obviously the experts try to meet with them, say, hey, what are some of the questions you're not asking before you make your final decision? You need to get it out. You need to be talking to your partner so that you can make a good decision if you want to stay married or get a divorce.
Right. So we start the episode, I think Elijah and Katina go grocery shopping.
Right. And they seem happy, having fun, trying to figure out what Katina can cook. And Elijah, he's making all these suggestions like he can cook. But she's like, I think he can only cook breakfast food is what her conclusion is.
Yeah.
So she wants to have a cook-off. We'll see if they actually have one or not.
My concern with him is he's like, I feel like I need to guide her. I think, and we'll kind of get into this, because I think that one of the things that I see as a red flag for me with Elijah and Katina is that he's almost treating her like a child, like he's got to show her everything. Like he's this great expert on what relationships are like. He's this great expert on what cooking is like. He's this great expert on everything. So he's like, he's got to nudge her along and guide her along. And I see Katina slowly disappearing into the background.
Interesting. I think he has this idea of a husband, and he's always
got lots of ideas,
trying to portray this certain person he has in his head. Husband's a provider, protector. He guides and gives knowledge. So I'm wondering if some of those thoughts is he's trying to project himself on Katina, like you picked the right one about being a husband.
I just think it's funny how he's so bold in his relationship expertise when he was talking about how he was hopping around from relationship to relationship with other people. So I'm just a little concerned that he's like, oh, I got it all handled. But it's like, you have not proven to anybody, not one person, that you have it handled. Right. So I don't know how you're guiding people with no experience yourself. It's like, if you're saying she doesn't have experience, you definitely don't have experience.
That's true, right? Because before, he was out in those streets,
right,
doing whatever he wanted when he wanted.
He was for the streets, for real.
Right. So now all of a sudden we know what the relationship should look like.
But then he also made this statement a little later. He's like, I'm so traditional. I'm so old fashioned. Dude, no, you got other things going on. You are old fashioned when you want to be, but there was some crazy stuff going on back in the day, but I don't know about sleeping with a mother and a daughter.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Right.
That's a little out there.
Right.
Already, hey Jessica, daughter's on. She actually hit us up and said she wanted to be on with us tonight. So we said let's do it live.
Okay.
All right. So kind of as they're going along though, they do meet with she meets with Cal, he meets with Dr. Pepper. Again, they're not intimate. They still haven't had sex.
Right.
She doesn't want to get dizzy.
She don't want to get dizzy.
She want to get, dizzy.
Right.
And so, you know, and I get what she's saying, but Pastor Cal was kind of like, you do kind of want to have some of that
right
within your relationship, within the bounds of what you all are establishing.
Right.
So
because he's asking her, do you still have doubt?
Mm-hmm.
Is this what's holding you back? You know, and granted, you can't know if someone's going to do all the things they need to stay married. But I think if you both make a decision to be committed in the marriage, then it can work.
Yeah.
You know, and so Pastor Kyle was really asking her, like, you need to get rid of that doubt.
Right.
You're in a committed relationship now. Stay committed.
Let your amen be an amen. Let your yay be yay. Let your nay be nay. But then he meets with Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't helpful to him.
Because he's the expert.
Well, because he automatically took it negative and that it was against him, right? It's like, oh, she don't understand our relationship and she's hearing all these other people and now we're in a good place. Where she's like, look, I'm giving you an opportunity to say, what have you learned? Because you keep referring to her growing. Where's your growth? Where had you had to learn that just because someone have a dating app doesn't mean they slipping on you.
Right.
And I think he needs to step up and say, okay, I'm going to worry about me. Katina's going to worry about her. And we're working on our marriage together. Right. But he keeps referring to her and not looking at himself.
Yeah, no, when he was talking with Dr. Pepper, he was like, I didn't grow. Like, he literally said, I didn't grow. So you're really not taking what you're supposed to out of it. Because, again, I think you and everybody else should be growing the most if you're going to be in a long-term committed marriage. Mm-hmm. And then I just don't understand his point where he's like, it's he said, she said. You're on TV. We're watching you. Dr. Pepper has the videos. It's not like Katina ran to Dr. Pepper and was like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, I don't feel comfortable. It's like she's sitting in a studio. She's literally watching you talk down to your wife. It's not like it's not me assuming what's going on in your relationship. I'm watching your relationship. You are talking down to your wife. He's just like, no, I'm guiding her. I'm letting her know. It's like, no. Because when he watches it on TV, he's probably going to be like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done. I hope he says, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Right. Yeah. Now, question, do you think when they were at the volleyball, doing the volleyball, and he's bringing all this up, like he's trying to ask them if they were saying something to Dr. Pepper? Because he was like, well, you know, she's bringing up all she says, he say. And I was like, is he trying to refer to them?
I think that was directed at production.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what I think.
Okay.
Yeah, because he did mention that like production was the one like telling Dr. Pepper things.
Right. Okay. And it's like, dummy, yes, there are cameras around you all the time. The video does exist.
You got one in your living room. Like
right.
And I don't particularly care for it's just the way he says it. It's very possessive to me. My wife. She has a name, and that's why I think if you watch her body language, if you watch her reaction, it seems like she is disappearing into this background character in his life. That she's just like I would say my vase or my microphone or whatever. She's this background piece that just augments his life, but really doesn't add value except for what he wants it to be. It's my thoughts. All right. So, and then who we want to talk about next? Mark and Lindsay?
Yeah, they were next.
Go ahead, talk.
You go first. I heard
I just think Lindsay keeps saying, I'm sorry, Bugatti is squeaking his toy right now. Lindsay keeps saying that Mark is not showing commitment and he's not being consistent. And I'm like, it's kind of hard to be consistent when you're all over the place. Right. When you're getting upset, when you're starting fights with everybody involved. I don't even remember what their last fight was about. Like, I know they were supposed to have a photo shoot and she canceled it, stormed out, and made it awkward for everyone when he's like, can we please just do the shoot? Like, I know you're mad, but you hired this person to be here, and now we got to stop and be awkward. And so I think Lindsay just blows things out of proportion when she's not like, this is exactly the right way to show that you are being consistent, that you were in this marriage. And she needs to open up how she's receiving love, because not everybody receives love or gives love in the same way. And she needs to get out of the box of like, he did not do this one thing. Like, he did not do whatever. And now I'm upset because he's not consistent.
Right.
I wouldn't be consistent either. I would definitely be pulling back. I'm like, you too much. Please.
Yeah. Because I think the whole issue started, I think something happened where he put like her clothes in the dryer.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was probably supposed to be on delicate, and he put it on regular, which I've done that.
And then we just stop. You
and
stop
so
washing my clothes.
I'm like, look, I get it. My stuff is basic. It just goes in. It comes out.
But I think it's the over talking as well. He's trying to speak, and then it's all always okay. It's getting a mess. What's that?
That's what she did to him.
That's what she does to him, though. She like grabs him.
Right. So that scared the mess out of me. I'm like, what are you doing? Because his eyes be like this all the time. He be on hinge. You know, so I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, why don't you see how the way you're responding, you're raising your voice, you have so many criticisms about him, you're negative. And he's like, you're negative. You just said something negative. And he's trying to point it out. And then she just keeps on and on, you know. I guess when they get to the point when they have these conversations, like Dr. Pepper's trying to talk to her, like, where is this coming from?
Right.
Where you having this negative talk. And she mentioned something about her mother, and her mother was negative towards her.
Yeah. And
she would combat her sadness with being angry or something to that effect. And I think when we don't even realize still projecting our childhood in our adult life, and then we're projecting it on people we're supposed to be loving.
The trauma of our childhood, the trauma of our past hurts, past feelings start to play out, and in some respects she's repeating that behavior.
Right.
She's doing what her mother did. Right. She's now doing that to her. She's now doing that to Mark, in my opinion.
I also feel like we don't get to see where Mark messes up because Lindsay is like overpowering. Because I'm not gonna sit here and say that Mark is perfect. Like, I'm sure there's things that he's doing to her that are setting her off. Yes. But I'm like, we can't even see that when it seems like her person, like Mark was supposed to be Mark the Shark, have a big personality.
Right.
His personality doesn't seem that big compared to Lindsay's.
Right.
So I just think that the dynamic of their relationship is just interesting, because I honestly would want to see Mark with somebody a little less, like a little more subdued, because then it would be like, okay, what's Mark doing? Like,
And I know that. Right. And see, that's what me and your dad was talking about while we were seeing that, because he's like, he ain't really doing. I say he is doing something, but because she has this big personality,
she's overpowering.
You can't get to see it. But when we were at the volleyball, we did see it, because she's reaching out. She's trying to get over to him, and he like, you know, so then he goes, okay, this is a little bit of what she could be referring to, and needed to be more balanced, right? Because pretty much she turned out to be the shark that's been devouring him.
She's a barracuda.
And now he's the guppy. Because I mentioned this at the beginning. Look at the first episode of this season. I said that. I was like, with him having this big personality and she has a big personality, somebody's going to have to give up the big personality. That both people can't have a big personality and work in the relationship.
And I think Mark's big personality just doesn't come out when there's conflict.
Correct.
So I think that because there's conflict, we don't see maybe the normal Mark that maybe the experts were thinking as far as Mark the Shark, what have you. So his personality, the conflict causes him to pull back, because one thing he mentioned was his issues with his parents, that he was always see his mother kind of argue with his dad, and his dad would just kind of shrink back. And so they said, well, that's not, your mother's not Lindsay. I'm like, no, because Lindsay also talked about how she was feeling very sad all the time, what have you. So Lindsay might be dealing with some depression as well, just like Mark's mom did. Right. So there might be some parallels there, in my opinion.
Right. And I think what he's trying to say, Dr. Cow was trying to say, I was going to call him Dr. Cow, Pastor Cow. Pastor Cow.
Well, in the church, everybody a doc, right?
That, he wants to make sure that he doesn't keep projecting his mother on Lindsay, even though she's giving them the same type of vibes coming back. You have to indicate this is not your mother.
Right. And
you're not going to fall in that, because Pastor Cow asked him a very candid question. Do you think you becoming your father, or do you think you are, I think coming into your father.
Yeah.
And he had to really think about these. Like, no one ever asked me that, but you could tell he got very emotional about that. Right. Because we don't want to become our parents, at least the bad side, right? The negative side of them. And it's so because some behaviors learned, you don't even realize you just picked it up. That's it. It's always been in your household. So
yeah. And then one other thing with her, did you see when she was serving him the chicken? She first was like wiping her nose, and then she served him the chicken. Yeah, I was like,
you know what? Once you get married, everybody.
Nah.
That's probably the seasoning that she put on it.
Yeah, because it was lemon pepper phlegm.
Oh, no.
All right. And so then Steve and Noy.
Yes.
Noy's going to annoy me.
He said Noy's going to annoy me.
I didn't even realize that was going to rhyme until I said it. No, her whole get a job thing, clearly he has money. He keeps trying to tell you, I don't see that lifestyle for myself because I have other ways of making money. I'm literally cooking and cleaning and doing the housework while you're at work. I'm walking your dog. I'm contributing to the house in various ways. I have a savings account. It seems big enough to last him at least a couple more months. And she's just the only way I see financial stability is having a 40-hour week. I'm just going to say right now, I don't want to work 40 hours a week. So I find somebody, we could rock it all day. What are we doing to save money and do something else? I think because she saw it in her parents that they didn't have money growing up, she doesn't know a different way. I think that's just a learning curve that she needs to be more open to. Okay, as long as I got money in my bank account, I'm fine. I'm secure. If it goes down, then we can start discussing how to build it back up, what we need to do. But if I see zeros in my bank account, we're good.
And I think also, if you've never been poor, and as she's indicating being poor, it's that fear, right? When you don't have enough, and we've been there where it's just for we don't have enough, and you don't want to get to a place where you can't gain anything, you can never gain any ground, and you finally feel secure because, like she said, my parents work hard, I work hard for the things that I want.
Right.
It is about her releasing those fears and then seeing him implement the plan to see that, this can work a different way. Because when you have to see, for us to get out of the mud, someone really struggle and fight to get out of the mud to make something for themselves, then seeing in a different viewpoint can be very hard. Because you talk about having a poverty mentality, right? And not having enough. That can be fearful for someone who says, how she's what I call in bondage to
a job.
I wouldn't say to the job, because it's more than that, right? Of being poor in her childhood.
Right. And
now to be able to see a different perspective, it will bring a freedom to her that I'm thinking that's the fear.
Yeah. I saw a website. It looks like Steve has a website now And he's kind of on his website. He kind of lists some of the things he does. So he does photography, he does DJing, he does. But in his past, he's also done. He had 2 apps that were on the app stores for Apple, and I think on Google, that he's pulled off because he's like he doesn't have time to focus on them and support them, what have you. So he's done things that Lynn, helped me to believe that he's got some things stashed up. He's got some things where it's not, and we haven't even really talked about the fact that his family background also might not be the same as Noy's as far as having to struggle. So there's all these things that are leading me to believe Steve is more concerned with where are we. I'll handle the money, but where are we? I want to make sure that you are connecting with me for who I am and not for what's in my bank account. Because if that's the only thing that's going to cause you to have an issue with me, then let's get all these other things out the way and let's focus on what we can build together.
And I think when they had the conversation, when they came back together after meeting with the experts and saying, okay, let's do this. Let's sit down. Let's make the plan.
Right.
If that's going to make you secure and that's what you need, because I do love you, then we can sit down and do that.
Right.
Because he sounds like, I don't have a problem doing that. I just need to know what we're going to do.
What's going to make you happy.
Right. Now, I want to talk about the social media part about
hold on,
this.
Creasy, I think was about to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that just because when he was sitting down and making the plan with her, he still was like, do I have to work 40 hours? And her face was like,
yeah,
need to work 40 hours. And I think Noy just has some things that she needs to learn to let go, because it just reminds me of her with the 3 children.
Yeah.
He's like, can we do 2 and a maybe? What if our kid has disabilities? He's thinking about all these different things of if our child needs extra care, can we even handle 3? And she's like, no, 3. I've seen it in my childhood. 3 works for everybody. And it's everybody's not you.
Right.
And so I think she just needs to learn to adjust a little bit, because if she wants that perfect 3 kids really is not something that you can really account for and plan for. Miscarriages happen.
Right.
Things like that happen, and that's going to enable your ability. You can't plan that.
Right.
So.
Right.
And another thing that Lance, helps him believe that he's okay financially is he even starts to say, if you want to, while we have this time before we have kids, what have you, if you want to do some things so that you don't have to worry about going into a 9-to-5, what have you, he's basically saying, look, if you want to kind of move to this kind of lifestyle where it's what can we build where I don't have to be tied down to a 40-hour a week job? He's like, we can also talk about that. So he's trying to bring her along, in my opinion, into his world and his mindset about money, and not submit himself to her mindset about money.
Right. And that probably would take some time, right? Because if she's like, but what will I do? Because if she's not thinking innovative, and he's always thinking innovative, he's what they call creative, where he's always thinking about different ways to make money.
Right.
While she was taught, you stay at one job, you work there for all your life, and then you get paid, you have your 401k.
Right.
Where he's taught to have the freedom to create money in so many different ways.
Yep.
He was like, well, we could do this, or I could do this. And I think that's what inspires him the most, is about him just doing things he likes instead of him just making money.
Yep.
And what's her lifestyle? Does she want to buy clothes? Because he seems like a very simple person.
He's a minimalist. Yeah.
So if she still wants to stay in designer stuff, that might have to potentially go to the wayside. If he's saying, hey, I'm going to release you from your job as well. Right. And we just make money whenever we feel like we need something, or whatever. If I feel like DJing this weekend, I'll DJ. If I do this, then I'll do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And then you want to talk about the social media?
Yeah, I personally feel like anything related to my marriage that I haven't shared with you first, I'm not going to put on social media.
Absolutely.
Now, do I put stuff on about our marriage as far as we're taking pictures together, or if I feel like, hey, you know, sharing like maybe during our anniversary, I may say comments of good and bad times, whatever.
Right.
But I think when it comes to social media, he's correct. You're sharing more feelings online than you're sharing with me, individual, and making those boundaries.
Yeah.
What about you, Caricia? What's your feelings about putting feelings on social media?
I feel like when you're single, that's different because I'm not gonna lie, I have subtweeted people and I'm like, it's very vague, but if you see it, you know it's about you.
Right.
So, but that's different because again, I'm not in a relationship with anybody. So I can tweet whoever because I'm not committed. Like you see it. That was the point. Like that's the purpose. I'm not trying to talk to you and have a conversation and figure it out. I'm trying to get whatever off my chest. In her situation, when she's like, oh, I can't communicate, like I had to tell my friends about it. And like, that's why I went on social media. She keeps denying that it's about him.
Right.
But she got caught. So like, I feel like when you're single and you subtweet, if they say something to you, like it's again, whatever. But because it's now her husband, she's living with this person and she got caught. Now she's like, now I have to face what the subtweet means. And I don't want to face that. And so I'm just going to deny that it's about you. I'm just going to say it was about the day or the life or whatever. And so I think when you have to face the person you're subtweeting, that's different. And she's getting caught up and facing him.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's not about you, but I feel that way about you is basically what she was trying to say.
Yeah.
And then she was like, you know, it's my social media. You know, I hear what Pastor Cal is saying. I hear what you're saying, but it's my social media, which yes, it is absolutely your social media, but it's concerning your relationship. So the question is, are you looking more for the clout and the likes? Or do you want your relationship to last and to be built?
Right. Because I'm like, you're just being stubborn at this point.
Right.
No, I feel like it's like a freedom of speech thing. Like you can say whatever you want, but there are consequences to what you say.
Absolutely.
And so if the consequences are you hurting my feelings and I let you know that, that's the thing that she has to live with, is that it hurt his feelings is really what it is. And she needs to either come correct of like, I apologize. Like, I know it hurt your feelings. I won't do it in the future. Or just say, I don't care about your feelings. Like those are the two options that she has. And right now it seems like in order to not say, I don't care about your feelings, she's going to say, I didn't do it. Like, it's not about you.
Right.
All right. And then the last couple, Jasmina and Michael, which at least I'm glad they're getting out of each other's way right now.
Okay.
But for her, I think, and really for both of them, the question is there still time to develop the emotional connection that they missed out on in the first few weeks because they were, you know, they had poor communication skills.
Right. I mean, again, like they stated, how much time are they going to put into it, right? Because Jasmina is feeling good about where they are, but you know, Mike's still mentioning about not sharing his past and what was going on in his past. So she feels like I'm still missing a big part of him that I need to know. And I think also them having communication with some type of form of touch will get their intimacy kind of sparked.
Right.
And I think Dr. Pepper did a good job of saying like, that means just reaching out for their hand, you know, his hand, you know, that someone needs to take the initiative to create times for touching, you know, and I think the same thing was happening when Pastor Kyle was meeting with Michael.
Absolutely.
I think that's the one thing I disagreed with Pastor Kyle was when he was like, it felt like an expectation or obligation on her part. And he was like, don't have the obligation. And Kyle was like, you messed up. I don't think he necessarily messed up because in my opinion, I don't want anybody to do something because they're obligated to do it. I wanted them to do it because they want to do it. And so I'm not going to tell you to keep doing things that if you don't want to do them and you're only doing it because of me, don't do that. Like, I only want you to do things because you want to do them. And so I don't think it was a mess up for him to basically say, don't do that. I think he could have added to, I don't want you to do that. Let's do things that you are comfortable with that still elicit touch so that you don't feel like you're obligated to do anything for me. I don't want that at all. But you feel like you have comfortable ways to express that, like, hey, you like me, and I need to see that. And so whatever ways make you feel comfortable, where it's not because I like told you to do it or you're expected as a wife to do it, but because you're like, this is how I express myself. Let's figure out those ways and go from there.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Because there was a portion where it was like, bruh, go over to her right now and hug her. Because there was a moment after they got back and they were talking about their conversations with with Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper. And she was kind of expressing, as far as where she wants to be, as far as the emotional connection, what have you. And she's sitting there, and it was the perfect moment for him to go over, hug her, kiss her on her forehead, something to demonstrate some affection, some, kind of bond there, and then allow her to maybe reciprocate that. So it's like, I get wanting to be respectful, but you also you got to make a move.
I think for the both of them, they've never had to be the initiator in the relationship. So we have two people that really never had to initiate.
True.
If we look at it this way, right? So now here they are in a relationship where they're not used to having to be the initiator. And I think that's something they're going to have to spark within themselves to do something, because it sounds like he was initiating, and that's why she was kissing him and saying, well, I was doing it because I was obligated as a wife. But again, to him, he halted all initiation based off of that, the way they expressed each other at night. So I think as they figure it out and do it quickly, because that's the part they need to figure out quickly, they'll move forward. And I think out of all of them, if I had to make a bet, I would say that they may be the couple. I would be surprised, very highly surprised, if they say no on decision day.
Okay. So, all right, Caricia, your predictions on who's staying together and who's breaking up.
I think Mark is going to dump it. I think they may both get rid of each other. I wouldn't be surprised if Olajuwon and Katina stayed together, but I feel like if one of them was to be like, no, I don't want to do it, I feel like it'd be Katina. And then Noi and Steve, I'm really up in the air, because I feel like Steve would marry her if she stopped asking him about a job. Like, honestly, like if she got out of her head in that part, like I think Steve would be like, I like Noi, I love Noi, I want to do this, like, and go ahead. I don't know how like Noi expresses that that's a big thing for her, like the financial stability, but I don't think that's something that would like actually stop her from pursuing Steve, if that makes sense. But I don't know. And then Jasmina and Michael, I feel like they're also up in the air. Like just because they don't have the physical chemistry, it seems like every other couple did. I just don't know what's happening behind the scenes in order to be like one way or the other. I feel like they're the most neutral out of all of them. That's why it's harder for me to predict, because everybody else is having like bigger blow up fights about different things, and their communication skills have gotten better to where they're like out of that stage.
Exactly.
What about you?
Noi and Steve, I think they could be a yes on decision day. Again, they have to get out of each other's way. He needs creative freedom, and certain people can't live with that type of person, not knowing from day to day if they're going to have a paycheck. But at the same time, Noi has to understand your job could end at any moment. Your company could go bankrupt. Like, there's so many different things that could happen, but her perspective is just so, a company's secure. You'll always have a job. And I think she's just looking at it in a different way. I think if she had an opportunity to meet another couple where there's freedom in creating businesses and in different ways they create income, I think she could possibly wrap her head around it, and they may work out. And Katina, I feel confident they will say yes, unless there's going to be another big blow up right before decision day. And Mark and Lindsay, I would say they're going to say no, potentially, unless there's some dramatic change in their relationship. But I've seen otter couples say to stay together as well. So
yeah, I mean, I think Mark and Lindsay are a wrap. I think it would be best for them to not continue on. I think Katina and Elijah will. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned for her though, because I really don't like what I'm seeing. Where it seems like she's disappearing. She's becoming. If you notice, like when they're at the beach or the volleyball thing and other interactions, he's doing all the talking and she's just sitting there with this almost blank look on her face. Mm-hmm. So I'm very concerned about her and even just her mental health and her well-being. Right. Not saying that he's abusive physically,
right? Because you kind of taking it really to one extreme.
But I think that there are. If this is how he's acting in front of cameras, mm-hmm. how can he act, or how is he going to act without the cameras? Mm-hmm. Because if this is the version of I'm growing, I'm developing, I'm what have you, what's going to happen once the cameras are off, and then it truly becomes he said, she said.
Because he's publicly embarrassing her in front of just their own couples.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if she said something in the store, or he found out something and he makes a big scene at the store. We'll talk about it when we get home. Well, now you brought it up to everybody. Might as well say it if everybody's going to be in my business anyway.
Right. So, and then Steve and Noy, I think that they'll be together. I'm hoping that at the end, Steve kind of brings out his financial records. It's like, see, this is what I got now, and then they can end that. And then
I'm hoping he brought it out when he was showing her the laptop, but not.
I doubt it. And then Jasmina and Michael, I've been rooting for them. I think that they could be great if they got out of each other's way. They've gotten out of each other's way. Now they just need to start moving closer to each other. Mm-hmm. So I think that they could, but I don't necessarily think that they will, just because I think for her, she wants to have that full physical and not physical, but at least that emotional connection. And I don't know that they'll have that by then. So, all right, but that's it for this one. Next week looks interesting because Lindsay looks like she's about to jump out of a moving car.
Yeah, ends up in the hospital.
Yeah. You're not supposed to call people crazy, but whatever the synonym is for that.
I think she might be depressed. She might have some depression because she talks about a lot of being sad. So
I just want to know the conversation between Mark and Michael, because I feel like Michael's quiet. Like, what did Michael do for Mark to be have a frank conversation with him? So I think that's the thing that surprised me
with Lindsay, though. I think he's just confiding in Michael is what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that's it. Yeah.
We shall see.
I'm surprised Mark didn't hop out the car, or not. Yeah, Mark didn't hop out the car instead of Lindsay, because at that point, I'm like, we both.
Well, it's still to me part of Lindsay's manipulation tactics. No matter what, she has some strong. The force is strong with her as far as manipulation. When she's asking him, do you want me to go? It's your decision whether or not you keep talking about you want to leave, then pack your bags and leave. It's up to you. So her jumping out the car, seemingly jumping out the car, to me, all of those are just part of her manipulation tactics that her Karen-ness is getting, coming out and coming to the forefront. All right, well, listen, that's it truly for this episode, this video of recap of Married at First Sight. We will see you all next time. Have a great one. Be blessed.
Bye.